Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Peter Hume. He's the executive director for Celcius Resources, who are an ASX listed exploration and development company focusing on its portfolio of copper, gold assets located in the Philippines. Peter has over 40 years of substantial and practical experience on major mining and construction development projects on lead roles throughout Australia and internationally, working for the likes of Xstrata, Anglo, Glencore and Newmont. He's here today to talk about Celcius and the potential world-class copper gold assets they have in the Philippines. So that's welcome Peter to the podcast. How you doing, Peter?
Hi, good. Thanks, Rob. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, and I appreciate your time in coming on to this podcast. So as we always start these, wondering if you can give the audience an overview of yourself, of your career, so the audience knows a little bit about your background.
Yes, thanks, Rob. I think you sort of covered a fair bit of it when you had your introduction. So yes, I've been in the mining industry for about 40 years now. Australian by descent, but I've been living overseas and working overseas for most of my career. Places like Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, a bit of time in Africa, and about the last 15 years here in the Philippines. So both operational design and engineering experience in developing mining projects and or engineering aspects of operational plant and equipment as well. So a bit of a broad range in relation to that, but I guess in the last 15 years, I've done another degree here in social engineering, which is very important in the mining industry to make sure that you can develop something and get social acceptability. So yeah, a very good career. I think I've achieved a lot, and I'm here now in the Philippines as part of my role. I'm handing off a lot of my experience onto some of the younger engineers that we're employing here. So divesting my good and bad experiences in the mining industry onto the younger people we're currently training up. So yeah, that's about it.
You just mentioned obviously you studied social engineering. Was that a degree or master's?
Yeah, look, it was a bit of a degree, but I guess a lot of it was practical experience in the Philippines here in particular, not just here, but in Indonesia and PNG as well, dealing with indigenous communities in particular, which is can be challenging, but can be very rewarding as well.
Yeah. And how did you find studying a high level, obviously, qualification later on in your career? And obviously you're working full time. How obviously it's all relevant to what you're doing, but how did you find doing that extra studying? Obviously whilst running a company, and obviously later on in your career, because obviously I get candidates asking me questions around doing further studies, and obviously I always encourage to do further studies, but sometimes it might impact with their families, etc., and obviously their day-to-day business. But how did you find it?
Yes, it's all of that. It's quite challenging when you're running companies, and I guess I picked a time in my career where I wasn't in a position where I am now. So I was more of the lead in the engineering and development field within another organization. So while that's even challenging, I guess it's not quite as challenging as running a business and running the day-to-day operations and finances and various other aspects. So I guess I picked the time in my career that it was not quite as busy. It's always busy, but not quite as busy. So yes, challenging. You have to devote yourself to, giving up some of your social life and compromising in some aspects in relation to what you do and when you do it.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wondered if you can tell us more about Celcius Resources.
Yeah, so Celcius Resources has been around for quite a number of years. And, just to highlight a point, in last month, we were listed on AIM as well as the ASX, so we're now dual listed. I've been involved in Celcius in the last 2 and a bit years, I guess, since we took up these Philippine projects. So there was a group of us that bought these Philippine projects off Freeport-McMoRan, and we looked for a vehicle to put these projects into, and we found Celcius. So Celcius, as I mentioned earlier, has been around for a number of years. It used to be called Celcius Coal, I believe, before it's Celcius Resources. And when we got involved with Celcius, it had one project, which was a project in Namibia, which we still have at the moment. We're trying to enhance the economics of that project and currently looking for a partner for the Namibian project, which is predominantly a cobalt project with copper. And in actual fact, it's the largest cobalt resource outside of the DRC. So quite a valuable one. It's unlocking the economic value of that is a little challenging from the point of view of the metallurgy of the ore. So, but we're working through with that at the moment. We've made a number of announcements last year where we've improved the recoveries from what was previously delivered prior to us getting involved.
Wondered if you can give us an update on the mineral resource of your flagship MCB copper gold project.
Yep. So we released a updated JORC in December 2022, which we pushed some up into a measured category. So in total now we're looking at about 338 million tonnes of ore at a average grade of 0.47 and a gold grade of 0.12. It is a high grade deposit. Some of our drill hole results, one last year, which was MCB 38. MCB 38 had an intersection of 611 meters at 1.39% copper and 0.75 grams per ton gold. So really quite an outstanding intercept. We actually drilled down through the middle of the high grade core, which gave us those results, but quite outstanding. And, we've identified other targets just outside where we've been drilling, which could mean that in the future, the resource expands considerably.
What's the junior market like in the Philippines for gold and copper explorers?
Look, there's a few new players coming into the market now that the Mining Act has been, or the sanctions over mining that were lifted late last year in relation to open pit. And there are some new players, but predominantly the players that that I'm used to in the last 15 years of being here are still here. The Oceanas, Felix Mining, those sorts of guys. But there are some new players coming onto the market, and I understand that some of the bigger mining groups are also now interested in the Philippines, given that the moratorium on mining's been lifted, as well as the open pit option of mining also being lifted.
Obviously, your flagship MCB project is obviously your main concern. I wonder if you can just tell us about some of the other projects that you're currently involved in.
Yep. So we also have a project called Sagai. So last year we also delivered a mineral resource estimate for Sagai, which was also quite promising. So that mineral resource estimate was equated to 302 million tonnes at 0.41% copper and 0.11 grams per ton gold. So that's sort of an early to mid stage exploration project. We are looking for a partner for that also. And in theory, that with further drilling, we anticipate that could expand out to be quite a large resource. Maybe our guesstimate at this stage could be close to 1 billion tons, but a lower grade and suitable for block caving.
What's the investment climate like within the Philippines at the moment? Obviously, over the last few years, there seems to be a lot of obviously activity going on. But what's the investment climate like at the moment?
Yeah, look, very quiet during the pandemic, obviously, like a lot of countries were. But I think things are picking up quite substantially now. Not just in the mining sector, but in infrastructure, various other sectors here. The Philippines government, no different to other governments around the world, suffered quite substantial economic impact from the COVID concern. And I guess the Philippine national government has been prominent in saying more recently that they see mining as one of those economic recovery industries, which they're counting on to underpin the government's economic growth going forward, provided it's done responsibly.
Wondered if you can just tell us a little bit about your company's ESG strategy. Obviously, ESG is a prominent topic within the mining industry. So just wondering if you can tell us your ESG strategy.
Absolutely, Rob, and I agree with you. It's becoming more and more prominent within the mining industry, in particular here in the Philippines. The Philippines government is very, very strong on ESG companies that have ESG principles. I guess for us, we have taken a very lateral view as a company in relation to ESG. As an example, our flagship project is going through an audit process by Digby in the UK at the moment for an ESG assessment and grading. A lot of our approach and development activities and the way we're looking at developing the project has the principles of ESG. From a social point of view, we have very strong relationship with the Indigenous communities within the area where we're developing the project. We're also looking at what development programs we can do with those communities that's sustainable. So helping them with education, schooling, health, various other aspects. In addition to that, the project itself is taking on what we're calling the first green mine, where from many different aspects, there's no tailings dam. We're using paste and hydraulic backfill. From an energy perspective, we're using either hydro or geothermal power on the project. There are many other aspects that we're looking to implement: solar power, various other things in our project for the MCB project, which the national government here is supporting and adopting very well. Our policies and procedures and implementation of programs on the ground follows the same principles as well. So from start to finish, from the board all the way down through the process, we're really scrutinizing and adopting the ESG principles in more or less everything we're doing as part of our development.
Talking, I obviously mentioned the board. Obviously, you recently brought in David Way as the COO. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about the management team and obviously their contribution in moving Celcius forward?
Sure. So David didn't join the Celcius board, so he's taking over as COO. For a long time here, I've looked after both the operational side of it as well as more recently, since July last year, sort of taken on an executive role within Celcius. So that was getting quite demanding given our approach to ramping up. And therefore we brought David in, who's also got a wealth of experience, in particular here in the Philippines. He's ex-Oceania, worked in many different countries, similar to the countries where I've worked in as well, but a bit younger than me, so that's always a plus. And you know, we have a number of other qualified members on the board. Paul Dudley's recently joined, so he's a British finance guy. He's a previous nomad, which has helped with the AIM listing as well. We've got Sarge Sumiento, who's the chairman now, given that Martin Buckingham passed away last year. Sarge is also here in the Philippines, but you talk about ESG. I mean, Sarge is really driving the ESG into the company as well. Also had a wealth of experience in the Philippine mining industry, close connections with the government as well, and various sectors of the government, where he's helped out in particular with environmental programs and social programs with Indigenous communities. We've got Simon and Michael Humes as well, also heavy background in the mining industry. Simon Farrell being involved with Coal of Africa. Michael Humes, also an underground mining expert. So all that combination of all those different entities and different experiences makes for a very viable board.
And concluding, just wondering if you can just give us the outlook for Celcius for the remainder of the year, and also if there's anything else that you want to add
Sure.
to obviously inform our audience.
Sure, thanks, Rob. So I guess for Celcius for the rest of the year, our really focus, as we've started this discussion, is on the MCB project. We're currently we've recently listed on AIM. We're currently in the market to raise some debt financing already leading into our bankable study. We're looking for partners on a PUO as well as Sagai, to be able to develop those in parallel with a partner. But I guess our focus is MCB for now. It's really taking Celcius from being somewhat an explorer into a developer and an operator long term. All going well. This time next year, we should be well into starting some construction activities, with first copper still on target for sometime within 2025.
Peter, really appreciate your time. Was there something else you wanted to add?
No. I think that's it. I just wanted to thank you, Rob, for the opportunity to come and speak with you and your listeners. So I very good. I like to get the interact with mining, the mining society and the mining community in relation to, you know, telling them a bit more about Celcius projects, and in particular the Philippines, which, you know, there's been some recent articles that I've put out, which really indicate that the Philippines is a place to be going forward, provided that you have the appetite to comply with what the requirements are here as well. Yeah. So thanks very much, Rob. I appreciate your time and your listeners.
Yeah, and again, appreciate your time, and thank you for giving us an overview of Celcius, and obviously also mining in the Philippines. I don't think we've had anyone on recently from the that have been active in the Philippines, so it's a good update to our audience. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions, how can they go about doing that? What social media platforms are you on?
So we're in Proactive at the moment, LinkedIn, and if you look at the Celcius website, there's an email address there for people that want to ask questions. Generally, we make a response to everyone that's got meaningful questions. There are some people that just come on for advertising or advertising their services, but generally for people that are shareholders or other people that show interest in the company and the project, we always provide a response. So if you look on the website, there'll be an info email address which will go back to someone here in the Philippines, and then we'll respond appropriately to the questions. So no problem.
Yep. What we do is we include all that in the show notes accompanying this podcast as well. So
Sure.
that can be easy access if people want to ask questions and find out more about yourself and Celcius. So as I mentioned, really appreciate your time. Audience, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Appreciate your continued support. Please share this episode amongst others in the mining industry across the world, but also people that are not in the mining industry, because we want to educate the globe, but we want to educate not just mining people, but non-mining people about our industry, because it is a primary industry, it is needed, and the better awareness that we can make for everyone around the world, the better our industry will be. So, like I said, appreciate your continued support. And until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.